So, but when you come to a fashion design program, right? Now I'm taking you through the domains. So one major domain is a fashion design. Fashion is actually fashion, textile, a little bit of communication and styling. It's all put together. The more important thing which is happening now is technology. How do you integrate technology in fashion to be able to manufacture products? All right. So there is a lot of understanding and learning on software, a lot of learning on technical skills, right? A lot of learning on material, textile, understanding of how the weaving happens or how a particular material has been finished. So there are various kinds of aspect which you get to learn. Of course, you also learn making a garment. You learn pattern making, you learn these are established methods for like centuries. They have existed actually even before fashion design was called fashion design. There were people who were making clothes and they were making some costumes and so on. So those skills have also been documented and we teach them. And there are new ways of learning that. There is a lot of technology integration. There's a lot of 3D tools integrated in it, right? And you can see some of the careers that you can take up after you study fashion design. Everybody knows you can become a fashion designer, but you can also manage a brand, but you can also become a fashion consultant. You can become a critic, or you can become a fashion buyer. A buyer is a person who will, for example, you are going to the store, I don't know, maybe Puma or something like that, or Adidas, and you see in the store there are various kinds of products of Adidas which is there. There is an individual who is in charge of acquiring these products from different parts of the world and putting together in that particular store. I'm simplifying it. It's not a very easy job. It's a very complex job. That person is called a fashion buyer who is managing that entire business behind that whole store that you are just visiting, right? Then there are things like retail manager, which is basically all the stores that you visit are managed by somebody there. Like there's a beautification, there's whatever they do, the windows, they they keep the staff, they train the staff. There's a lot of stuff which happens behind the scenes. So, and then there are fashion illustrator, which is more of artistic sort of work. Or you can become a fashion curator. You can curate exhibitions, you can curate shows, you can write books, or you can be a fashion graphic specialist, which is you create prints. Like for example, this something which I'm wearing here, or you might have t-shirts with prints and so on. And so these are the work of fashion graphic specialists who make presentation also, but they also do print and they do various kinds of packages, advertising around the fashion, so on. So broadly, that is how a fashion domain works, right? This is a multi-billion-dollar industry across the world. This is an industry which will never go on a downfall at any point of time. Because we will always wear clothes, we will always want new clothes. But this is also an industry which is a very difficult industry. It's a very hard, and you really need a lot of hard work and grit and determination to sustain in the industry. It's not a difficult industry, but it is also not a very easy industry to be in, because there's a lot of competition and there is always a need for innovation. Remember the 3 C's and the 4th C? It all impacts all of these domains. Then comes the domain of communication, right? Communication design. Communication design is broadly all the kind of visual or verbal communication that comes from any brand or anybody, whether it is a political party also, or whether it is a news channel, or whether it is a book, or whether it is a poster, whether it is a TV advertising, whether it is Instagram. Every kind of communication that happens, a lot of it is digital, of course, but a lot of this, all of it that happens comes under communication design, right? So therefore, communication design has different aspects to it. You have advertising, publishing, social media, films, exhibitions, UI, UX, right? So all of it is part of communication design. Communication design is at the base core of it. So the basic thing that you learn is how to use colors and visuals and text and images put together. How do you compose all of this together and create a communication, right? Again, I'm simplifying the whole thing. There's a lot more to it. Like for example, I'll just point out on the right hand side, you can see this yellow sort of little poster kind of a thing which is there. There is a text which is written there, right? So communication designers also get really deep into the detail of even a text which is called a font. Okay, we know a font. Okay, but this is basically typography design. So typography design will become a part of communication design. But if you choose to become a typography designer or a type designer, you can specialize in it later on. Maybe you go abroad also and specialize in it. And you would be actually designing fonts, right? The fun thing which I should mention here is a type designer makes a lot of money. Do you know why? Anybody knows why? Why does somebody who designed this font make so much money? They make like really a lot of money. They're super rich. Why would that happen? Nobody? Okay. So the
So,
reason is, yeah, go ahead.
to grab attention.
They actually make money by the royalty every time some company or some software or somewhere this particular font is used, that particular person, the type designer, earns money through that. So if you look at some of the fonts that we use, right, maybe Times New Roman or Arial or something like that, which you use on the computer, every computer in which it is installed has to somewhere pay a royalty back at the type designer to use that particular font. If Microsoft Word is using a particular font, Microsoft pays money to that type designer for license of billions of people, right? So there's a lot of money which actually a type designer makes just by designing one font, but it has to be like extremely successful and popular, right? Okay.
Yes.
So I will answer your questions. I can see some of the questions coming in. Okay. I'll move on to the next one. This is animation and game. Okay. Uh, Animation and game actually does not need too much of introduction to you guys because you see animation and you definitely play some games, right? There are always designers who work behind it. There are, of course, people who code it, who do some kind of tech work behind it. There's a lot of hardware and coding technology involved. But the designer imagines the animation, the designer imagines the game, right? So the whole visual aspect of it, the whole narrative of it, okay? There's a whole story behind the whole game. Games are amazing stories, right? If you play any game, it will not just, it is not like the small Ludo or something like that we play, right? It's not like one layer of anything. There are multiple levels and layers and stories, characters, different kinds of worlds and paths and different tools and weapons, and there are huge amount of stuff in animation and game design. So all the kind of things which get created are all done by different kind of designers. Not one designer can't design a whole game. It's impossible really, right? So therefore, there are designers who will design the landscape of the game, like the world inside which you are playing the game. Another set of designers, they will design the characters. And another set of designers who probably have studied fashion and they have done animation after that, they will design the whole clothing, the whole accessories, the whole hair color and everything, all sorts of avatar features they will design, right? A transportation designer might actually get hired to design the kind of bikes and things which you ride inside the game, right? So you can see there is a lot of different kinds of designers who get into it. But game designers essentially put the whole concept of the game together. What will be the basic concept? What will happen in the game? Why will people play it? You don't want to make a game which people will get very bored after a while, right? So there's a lot of work behind the scenes in a game. So there are artists, there are motion graphic designers, there are animation artists, there are like game testers and developers, and so on. There's a whole lot of people who are working, and this is a massive industry which is there, which is actually like catering to animation and game design. If you have to actually know how many people work in one animated film, you should see the end credits of that film. Okay, especially any Marvel movie, it will go on for like 10 minutes. You will see like thousands of names coming one after the other. After, like, we wait for the end credits, right? We wait last make chota sa scene as something is going to come. So that is the amount of people who are working and who are needed to work on animation and game design. So this is also a massive, massive field. Then we come to product design. Okay, product design is a part of a larger domain of industrial design. Okay, industrial design essentially means anything that is manufactured in an industrial setup is an industrial design. Okay, anything that you can manufacture, right? In an industrial setup, in a large scale industrial setup, which is not a craft. Like pottery is not really an industrial design, but ceramics, like all the glasses and plates that we commercially get in, like maybe the stores or large shopping plazas, those kind of ceramics are industrial products. Okay, but a small cooler in which you can drink a chai, that is not an industrial design technically. That's more like a very local craft. Okay, so industrial design actually is something which all of us use every day in every possible thing. Anything that you can think of, any object that you pick up, any object just lying around you is a work of an industrial designer. The chairs that you're sitting on, even the wheels are designed by an industrial designer. Okay, of that chair. I mean, forget about all the other parts. There are all other parts also which are there. But yes, of course, industrial designers work with engineers. They work with special people who work on materials, like chemical engineers, probably structural engineers. They work with people who are making electrical products, electronics. So there's a lot of collaboration which has to happen, definitely. You cannot just make a beautiful looking product, but it doesn't function. It has to also function. There has to be also internal things which will work in a product. Okay, so industrial designers, so therefore we have product design. Then we have transportation design. This is also a manufactured product. Okay, it's an industrially manufactured product. It is not created just by hand. There's every part in any car is manufactured in one industry, then it is brought to another place and then assembled to the car. So there is industrial designer, there's a product designer involved, there's a transportation designer also involved. What does the transportation designer do? A transportation designer designs the whole vehicle. Okay, the transportation designer imagines the whole vehicle. They visualize the whole vehicle, but all different parts of it are made coming together in a collaborative space with different kinds of people. Okay, you have automobile engineer who will work on it. You will have a light technician who will work on it. There are very, very, very specialized things which are there all around, right? And in today's car, there is also a lot of software. So it's not only a car with wheels and a steering wheel, but there is also a software inside it. There's also a AI sort of supported thing inside it. There are self-driven cars also, which work a lot with internet and data and how it is processed inside the car. So a transportation designer is again a very, very crucial point at the center of this particular product, but working with all other designers. You can also see there is a profession which is a car interior designer, right? So even if you are an interior designer, you can actually also specialize in doing car interiors. This is another kind of very specific kind of work. There are textile designers who work in the car industry because they make specialized textiles for the seat covers, the kind of ambient, the things which is there on the ceiling or the head, where the head is touching, or the dashboard where there's a leather sort of a coating on the dashboard. All these different kind of things, they're done by material designers, textile designers, surface designers, various kinds of people who do this, right? Does a car need a communication designer? What do you think? Will a car also need a communication designer? Yeah. The car will, of course, need a communication designer. You need to brand a car. You need to name a car. You need to write the name of the car in a fancy, again, typography, fancy font on the car in different places, on the key, on the brochure, in the showroom. Hundreds of places the name of the car will also come. And of course, there is so much of advertising. There is video advertising, there is animation. You can actually develop a whole game with the car, and then the game designer comes in and designs the game. So you should see the websites of some of the, even the Indian brands of cars, and you'll be amazed to see the amount of animation which is there. And these are work of animation designers collaborating with car brands and companies, working with an automobile designer and coming up with the website, right? And of course, interaction designers and website designers, and everybody works together, right? So design is a very, very collaborative sort of space, okay? Then interaction design. Interaction design is very critical for us. Every day we interact with some software, some app, right? However many times we use the app, but irrespective of that, the backend of this is created by interaction designers or UX designers, new media designers, right? Isha, you can, which part you did not get? I'm just noticing the thing. If you can write it once again. Did you not get interaction design? Did you not get the other part before it? Okay, you can write. I can get back to it. I can give you all some extra time. Okay, all right. So okay, I'll explain interaction design once more, right? So an interaction designer is the person who designs a method. I wouldn't say only it is always an app. It is a methodology, basically. Sometimes it is physical, sometimes it is cognitive, meaning interaction designer might also design the handle. How do you open the car, right? How do you interact with the car? Can I talk to the car and say, can you set my temperature at 20 degrees, right? So even that aspect, any kind of interaction with any product, in between the human being and the product comes the interaction designer. So interaction designers work with various other designers who are making products for human use, all right? And they develop different kinds of interactive platforms, right? How does, like, again, I have this thing in front of me, so I'm giving. So how does this uh, spectacle box open, right? It opens like this, right? It has to open like this, and the spectacle should stay here, and there should be enough. Of course, there's a product designer who is involved, but an interaction designer also says that, okay, we cannot open it sideways. It should not open like this. then it becomes very difficult for the person to manage it and becomes like large and it might break off. So how do you also remain more logical in the interaction of something? But yes, predominantly interaction designers do work on digital interfaces like Zoom, the platform that we are using, right? There are interaction designers at the back end of it, making sure that the chat box is at the correct place, making sure I can share the presentation correctly. So there are various kinds of things which is happening. So, and there are new things. It's not only the things which are there, but also things which are not there. There are a lot of various kinds of interaction that we will use. Right now, artificial intelligence, we are typing, we are maybe a little bit of voice, typing in it or something. There would be gradually objects which have artificial intelligence. All right. There'll be a refrigerator which will have artificial intelligence. Maybe it is already there. There'll be a clock which has artificial intelligence or a toy which has artificial intelligence. That's when the interaction designer has a very, very important role as to how people perceive the product, how people understand how to use this product. Okay, where do I switch it on? Where do I keep my hand? Do I touch it or I don't touch it? So how to use any object, how to experience any object is the job of an interaction designer. Okay, so it is also to do with spaces, right? If I am going to an aircraft, how do I go to the toilet? Okay, how do I open the toilet? Can I push the door? Should I pull the door? Should I slide the door? Different kinds of interaction with any objects. There's always an interaction designer in the team making sure that the human interaction with that particular object is understandable, is easy, it's comfortable for human beings to use. Okay, then the last domain that we're going to talk about is interior design. All right, broadly it is called interior design. Different courses, different places would have different kinds of nomenclature, but interior design is essentially, it's a very simple thing. Interior design is inside of a building. Everything inside of the building is interior design. Okay, outside of the building is architecture. All right, so architects design the outer structure. Architects take care of the large entire building. Interior designers look at smaller portions inside the building. Okay, one lobby, one apartment, one swimming pool somewhere, one restaurant, one lounge, like that. Okay, and then according to the function of that space, according to the need of that space, you create an aesthetic. This is a very aesthetic driven profession. There is a lot of technicality also, but the technicality is not as much as an architect. The technicality is little less. But what is more important is the aesthetic, because again, this is a space where a human being will live, right? What is my experience inside that whole space? Is the light too much? Is the light too dim? Is the temperature comfortable? Is it feeling very claustrophobic? Okay. Is it too harsh a color, maybe like a bright color, and I am not feeling nice about the color, right? So there are various things inside a room that you can do. Again, there are products inside the room. There is furniture inside the room. So at UID, we have a separate a bachelor's, a separate graduate program, which is interior and furniture design. So like you specialize on furniture, and we use a lot of furniture all around us. You can see one here with me, and there's n number of furniture, and furniture might also include lighting, like light structures, lamps, different kinds of lamps on the table, near our bed, whatever. So one is furniture, the other one is interior architecture. So what is interior architecture? So inside the larger building, but there is also a little scope for architecture. Can I build a new wall? Can I build a whole new structure inside? I might get like a cube of a room. like a whole, like a rectangle, like a box. But what do I build inside? I can build different kinds of things inside. How do I partition it and make some more space? Maybe make a library for myself. Maybe I want to have a home theater system. Maybe I want to listen to music and I want to have a very silent sort of a room. I don't want a lot of vibrations coming inside the room, right? Maybe I want a room for my children and they should feel happy inside the room. So even those kind of various kinds of things require an architectural mindset. So you're not training to become an architect. You are just understanding how an architect thinks, but you are training to become an interior designer, right? So it's a little blend between, let's say, an architect and interior design, but like very like 20% of architect and 80% of interior design, right? And yes, somebody just asked, I think Mansi is asking, does textile design come under both interior and fashion design? So textile design predominantly is a separate thing. It has more connection with fashion because fashion cannot exist without textile. Okay. Everything in fashion has some textile or some material or the other. Okay. So it's more within fashion. Yes, there is an application of textile within interior also, but it is not a necessity. I mean, I can design a sofa without using a lot of textile also. I might have a curtain, I may not have a curtain. I might have blinds, right? So curtain is a textile design. A blind is not necessarily a textile design. I may not have a cushion and whatever, it is a smaller thing because it's a choice. And it is based on the interior designer to make that choice. Again, why we don't necessarily have to study textile design inside interior is because you can always collaborate with a textile designer. An interior designer will go to the textile designer, say, listen, I'm making this. Please come and collaborate with me and let's do this project together. All right. So there is always a scope for collaboration between all the domains of design. Okay. So that's yeah, that's where I will stop in terms